It's a rock and roll fairy tale. Once upon a time, a legendary frontman, singer, poet told his band members they should go home and write some new songs to fill out their live show and to have more to record on their debut album. A teenage guitarist in the band took him seriously, and he wrote a song that very night. When he brought this song into the band, they were blown away. Thing is, today's legendary guitarist and legendary guest not only wrote the music, but he wrote most of the lyrics. And that fact has been lost on pretty much everybody who assumes that this singer-poet wrote it. It would take the rookie band to #1 after their first single flopped, and it would become one of the greatest songs in rock history. Well, today, we have that guitarist here on the show as one of the last surviving members of a legendary band, and he has the story. This song was controversial, and it was the first hit song to have a guitar and keyboard solo in it. Hear the story coming up from a true legend next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you've ever saved up your allowance to buy a 45 single, a maxi single on CD, or a cassette single, or an 8-track single, did they have those? You're gonna dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now and click the bell so you never miss an episode. For more content, behind the scenes footage, check out our Patreon and check out our merch below. So it's time for another edition of our show Revelations, where featured artists share rare stories behind their greatest songs and greatest albums. Insight you just won't find anywhere else. I've been saying this a lot lately, but today we have a special guest on Revelations. Really excited. We have a bona fide guitar legend on the show today. He was only a teenager when he joined a rookie band that would change everything. And he would end up writing what most people would consider the band's signature song. Talking about Robbie Krieger, the guitarist of the Doors, and their classic masterwork, Light My Fire.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby.
Jim Morrison challenged the band members of the Doors to write songs so that they could fill out their live set and their debut album. So Robbie, he went home and just wrote a little ditty called Light My Fire. Not only did he write the music, but he wrote most of the lyrics, and a lot of people don't know that. After Break On Through, the first single fizzled, not even making the charts, Light My Fire was the song that would take the Doors to the masses.
Try to set the night on fire.
Man, Robbie has a story next, as well as stories behind his new album. It's a great one. Let's get into it. Here's Robbie. A lot of people don't realize, but that was written, I mean, you wrote pretty much the song. It was intact, you brought it, and it was because Jim told you guys to come with some songs. Tell us about that.
Right, yeah. Well, at one point, he realized that, hey, we don't have enough originals. You know, he had maybe 10, and they were great, but, you know, he kind of felt pressure to write more. And, you know, with him, it was, you know, he couldn't just do it on demand, you know what I mean? These songs would come to his head, and, you know, it was amazing. It was like he would just sit there, and it was like a movie would play in his head, and he would somehow copy it down, and then he would get us to fill it in, you know. But at one point, we only had 10 or 12 songs. And he said, well, why don't you guys write some, you know? Why am I the only guy that has to do all the work? So I said, okay, well, what should I write about? And he says, well, write about something that won't pass, you know, that won't get old, you know, quick. So I said, okay, how do I do that? Okay, I said, all right, I know. I'll write about earth, air, fire, or water, because that's the 4 elements. Okay, so I picked fire because I always loved the Stones song, Play with Fire.
Play with me, 'cause you're playing with fire.
So when you brought it to the band, what was their reaction? Take us to that moment.
They dug it. They dug it a lot, you know. But, you know, they all had their comments, you know. John didn't like the beat, you know, kind of folk rocky. And he was saying, no, let's make it more like Latin, you know, not like Break On Through, but I don't know why he thought that, but it worked.
You know that it would be untrue.
And then Jim came up with the second verse, because I only had one verse. That was kind of weird, you know, the funeral pyre and all that stuff.
Love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby.
So I didn't particularly like it at first, but then it grew on me.
Well, I mean, those first lines, you know that it would be untrue, you know that I would be a liar.
True. You know that I would be a liar.
Just some of the most memorable songs or lyrics in the history of music.
Yeah, so that proved to me that I could write.
Write lyrics.
You know. Yeah, and then Ray came up with the, you know, what is now the intro to the song and the outro and the middle part to get out of the which people call it a Bach, the Bach part, you know. I don't know if it's Bach or not, but it's a pretty cool part. But when he wrote that, it was a way to get out of the solo back into the song. Because when we did our solos, we were in A minor and B minor, and we had to get back to the song part of it. So he came up with this crazy Bach-like thing, and it was actually Paul Rothchild's idea to use that as an intro, which is a great idea, because it just comes in and bang, bang, and I mean, it has nothing to do with the rest of the song.
I know, it's cool because it lets it breathe when it's over. And then it allows Jim to come in with that first line, and it just pushes the ear to like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, when you get into the chorus, you know, and you hear that croon, I mean, the great rock and roll crooner.
Try to set the night on fire.
The greatest thing, a lot of people don't realize this was the first time that there had ever been in rock and roll a guitar and keyboard or organ solo together in the same song. That had never happened before.
Really?
Yep, first time that a hit rock song.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
I never thought about that.
Prog rock took from that of just going off on a, 4 or 5 minute solo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we even did that. I guess, we were playing these songs every night at the Whiskey.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool because we could read the audience's reaction every night, At one point, so it would be untrue part, and then there's the funeral pyre part, and then in the very beginning, we would just go back to the second verse and do that again, and then do the first verse again, and it didn't make sense. It was weird.
Funeral pyre, you know that it would be untrue.
We decided somehow to do a solo part, and I said, well, okay, I'll do a solo. And Ray goes, no, I want to do a solo, So we both ended up doing a solo. And the solos we based on John Coltrane, which was a big favorite of ours. So, hey, this would be a perfect place to put from My Favorite Things, they use E minor and F sharp minor, back and forth for hours, Coltrane did about a 5 minute solo, and then the keyboard guy, Coy Tyner, did at least 5 minute solo. That was pretty much the first time in jazz even that long of solos happened one after the other. so we said, hey, we can do that, you know, and rock and roll. And we didn't realize that that was the last thing the radio would want to play.
But now classic rock radio, that's what they play. Like if they play the edited version, they get hate mail, man, you know?
On Light My Fire, Ray played the piano bass, and then we decided it wasn't punchy enough, so we found this guy, Larry Knechtel, who was probably the best. He was part of the posse, what do they call those guys?
Yeah, the Wrecking Crew.
Wrecking Crew.
Yep.
And he not only played bass, but he played keyboards, he played everything.
He's
amazing.
jack of all trades.
Amazing. So he copied exactly note for note what Ray played and just doubled it.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
When we played Ed Sullivan and they didn't want us to say she can't get much higher.
Girl, we couldn't get much higher.
Boy, high was a bad word back in those days.
They wanted to say she gets better, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was some dumb,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come on, that's the all-time Rebel story of all time. When people are talking about the legendary middle finger to the man. I mean, what Jim did on Ed Sullivan. I mean, that's a story that'll be passed down 8 generations from now. You know, about the time that you said that we just played Ed Sullivan. You know? I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Whoops, we could have done 6 more Ed Sullivan shows. And then Morrison, in classic Jim Morrison fashion, looked at the guy and said, hey, man, we just did the Ed Sullivan show.
A lot of people don't realize, as my understanding is, you guys were booked for another 6 shows after that. So it took a lot of balls for Jim to do that. And of course, there's been differing accounts that maybe he had just forgotten because he was up there singing it.
So, for one thing, I never heard anything about 6 more shows. And we didn't even think they were serious. I swear to God, it was so stupid. You know, we can't get much higher, big deal. So we said, let's just do it. Do it that.
I love it.
Yeah, we couldn't get much higher.
I mean, having the Rolling Stones, right? You made them sing.
Yeah,
Let's
you know,
spend
it
some
wasn't
time
him.
together.
It wasn't him, really. It was the guys behind the lawyers. Ed himself didn't give it.
I love it. Well, the Buick TV commercial, I got to ask you about that for Light My Fire. Because that's legendary, too.
Yeah. Well, that was... Buick wanted to use Light My Fire. They had come out with this new Skylark, or what was it? It was a little Buick that was like good on gas, and it was like a very futuristic car, you know.
When better automobiles are built, Buick will build them.
John and Ray and I were there when that offer came in, and we couldn't get a hold of Jim. He was not to be, you know, in those days, nobody had cell phones or anything. And 4 days, 5 days go by, we can't get a hold of him. So we said, well, let's just do it. He'll be okay with it, you know. It was, you know, it's good money. Forget how much. It was probably $500. We did it. We decided to do it. And then finally, when Jim gets back, he's pissed. You did that without me, you know, without my permission, you know. And it wasn't as quite as crazy as when you see in the movie where Val Kilmer goes, how could you do that to me? And of course, it was my song anyway.
Take us back to when you were recording it. Was it something that was totally improv, or was it something, like how did the magic of that happening?
Well, you mean my solo or both
your
of us?
solo.
Okay.
Your solo, yeah.
My solo was very much based on Ravi Shankar. And I was really into Ravi Shankar at the time.
Yeah.
Every night I would go to sleep and his record would be playing to put me to sleep. I used his kind of, okay, this is what Robbie would play over these two chords.
Why, cool.
Yeah.
Jose Feliciano had a #3 hit. He won a Grammy, and that pushed your version of Light My Fire back up the charts.
Well, at first I didn't really like it. I thought, oh man, that sounds like elevator music or something. You
know that it would be untrue.
It wasn't rock. It was, I don't know what you'd call it, but and then little by little I would listen to it and I like that guitar part he played there, and I just became in love with it.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
I just saw him a couple of months ago. He played at the in Glendale, and we talked about it. He said, "Oh, thanks for writing that song." Hey, thanks for doing it. And it really made our career, and it made his career. I think that's the only song that's ever done that, maybe, which is pretty. And not only that, but in two totally different versions. His version was just as different as it could be than ours.
I remember begging my grandma to buy me. I was just a little kid, and I'd heard my dad's records and listening to them, and I was starting to get my own money and buy my own music. And there was a cassette tape that had the best hits of the 60s. And it had Light My Fire. I'm like, I got to get this. So she bought it for me, and I play it, and it was Jose Feliciano's version. I'm like, no, what? What's going on here?
Yeah, come on, baby, light my fire.
Well, let's talk about the new record, Robbie Krieger and the Soul Savages. It's a cool album cover.
That's one of my paintings.
You've been jamming with these guys for a couple years.
Kevin Brandon, the bass player, he'd played on a couple of my other solo records. I started hanging out with the keyboard guy, Ed Roth, and he happened to be a friend of Kevin's. So we started getting back together and playing again. That was, it was kind of meant to be, Franklin Vanderbilt, who was also an amazing player, still is. So he started hanging out with us quite a bit. And we just started, playing just for fun, And to me, that's the best way to write songs.
So you guys kind of jam? Is it how the songs come out?
Exactly.
My favorite track on here is Contrary Motion. I love that song.
Yeah, me
so
too.
cool.
Me too.
Tell me about that one.
The reason we call it Contrary Motion is because I'm going down with the chords,
Yeah.
Ba-da-dum-dum, ba-da-da-dum-dum, ba-da-da-dum-dum, da-da-dum-dum. And then Ed on the keyboard is going up, or with the melody. So it's two different directions. And for some reason, I just really like to solo on that song. And then at the end, in the ride out, Ed and I are doing this great talk back thing together.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Ricochet Rabbit, I saw the music video for that one, and that's kind of fun.
Comes from the certain chord structure that I do, which is based on a 6/9 position. lot of guitar players do that, but Wes Montgomery was the guy who really started doing that. So I based the melody on that chord, just going kind of up and down the neck. And then once again, Ed answers my thing with another cool lick. It's just really fun to play.
Robbie, looking back on your life, both your career and your personal life, what are you most grateful for in this moment?
Being born at the right time and the right place. You know, I mean, it's like none of this would happen had that not been the case. And I think that it's not just an accident.
Make sure to get Robbie's new album with his band, The Soul Savages, at the link below. There's another link, and make sure you comment at that link to help Robbie get nominated for a Grammy. We want to help him out. You have that power. Make sure to leave us a comment about Light My Fire, about the Doors, and about Robbie. What are your memories? What are your feelings about the Doors? What are your feelings about the new album? Let's have a great discussion. Man, I felt so honored to interview him. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.